Hello, everybody. How's your Saturday going? Welcome. This is Reading Simplified, and I'm Marnie Ginsberg, and I am just popping in because we had a lot of interest and excitement about a recent workshop that we held called 3 Activities a Day to Keep Reading Difficulties Away. And I just wanted to follow up and talk more about that because there was so much interest and we could only squeeze so much into the 1 hour. So if you saw that workshop, let me know if you have any questions, and let me know what you thought. The purpose of the workshop was to show you how a classroom teacher can save a ton of instructional and planning time by not using isolated reading activities, but using integrated reading activities. And teachers were really amazed. I got a lot of feedback in the chat and then also through email afterwards about how impressed they were with the outcomes for the students, but also how cool it would be to save some time. So I wanted to follow up with that and also particularly show you how one of the 3 activities, in this case Switch It, does about 19 different Common Core state standards. In other words, instead of doing one standard and one activity, and then another standard and another activity, and another standard and another activity, you can just do one activity and hit all of those standards at once. Now, you may not use the Common Core state standards in your state or your country, but still these are universal guidelines and goals for early reading or for struggling readers. So something similar will be in your community's guidelines, standards, or the curriculum, really. So let me show you a little bit more about how one of the activities, Switch It, does all these standards. I'm going to go to show you my screen. And what I have here is a column with Switch It, Read It, and Sort It. Those are the 3 activities that we taught in the workshop yesterday and the day before. So some of you may have come at different times. If you're just popping in, I'm talking about how these 3 activities hit so many standards. And if you were in our workshop, I'd love to hear what you thought. So let's look here at Switch It first. Look at all these X's that are connected to these various standards. And that's just page 1. Okay? We can actually go into another page, page 2, and you'll see how even more standards are addressed, okay, for Switch It. Look at all of those standards. Let's talk about some of them. And if you have any questions about how this one activity can accomplish so many things, let me know. Let's see. So let's talk about the first group of standards. These are standards for kindergarten readers. Let's look at this. Switch It, actually, and Read It and Sort It. They, all 3 of them demonstrate understanding of the organization and basic features of print. So when kids are being encouraged to look left to right, and the teacher's finger is sweeping left to right, and the teacher is pointing out how each sound is a separate symbol or a separate card, as in Switch It, then the kids are getting this concept. Again, similarly, just like I said, follow words from left to right, top to bottom, and page by page, particularly left to right with these word work activities. Recognize that spoken words are represented in written language by specific sequences of letters. So all 3 of these beginning concepts that you would often have like one isolated activity for, Switch It will address them, but it doesn't just address that it does all these other things. Let's look at a couple others. If you want your kids to recognize and name all upper and lowercase letters of the alphabet, Switch It is a great way to teach that. If you want to demonstrate understanding of spoken words, syllables, and sounds, that's also a great activity. You can count, pronounce, blend, and segment syllables and spoken words, particularly with Switch It. You emphasize the segmenting. The blending is more emphasized with Read It and Sort It. This is a big one. This is like the hallmark of Switch It. To isolate and pronounce the initial, medial, vowel, and final sounds, or phonemes, as we call them, in 3 phoneme CVC words. So if you're in kindergarten, you can start out with that goal. But it's quick. You're quickly able to move kids along. And so let's look at another one. Add or substitute individual sounds or phonemes in simple one-syllable words to make new words. So this, again, is really a classic thing that we're accomplishing in Switch It. And I won't read through all of them, but I just wanted you to see the scope of how one activity can save you so much time. So many reading programs kind of treat us like, if we give the teachers more and more and more, then they'll think we're a good reading program. But actually what we need as teachers is less. We need fewer strategies that accomplish more. So you don't actually want to have a standard and an activity for each standard. The standards are broken up to show you the conceptually how reading develops. But if we have a separate activity for each standard, we are underwater in our classrooms. We have way too much to do. Because this long list, this is 8 pages. This is just for kindergarten literacy. Never mind math, science, art, field trips, lunch collection, and all the other things you have to do in the course of your day. So instead of having us heaped on with more, we need less. And that's what these activities do right here. Switch It, Read It, and Sort It. They're the hallmark of the system that I've devised called Reading Simplified. And the purpose of it is really to save you, classroom teachers, and homeschool parents, or anyone who's working on reading, save you a lot of time with your instruction in the classroom or in your planning. I don't need to think about, oh, did I hit this activity or standard? Did I hit this one? Did I hit this one? And what activity do I need to get from Pinterest for each of those? I know that if I do switch it, I will be accomplishing all of these things. Now let me show you how this list just keeps going. It's like the Energizer Bunny, it just keeps going and going. That was page 1. This is page 2. Okay, can you see, again, we've got more X's here for the Switch It activity. If you want your students to be able to distinguish between similarly spelled words by identifying the sounds of the letters that differ, this is the activity for you. If you want your kids to be able to print many upper and lowercase letters, well, Switch It will get them prepared for that because they'll recognize them, and then Read It and Sort It will practice that. If you're just popping in, let us know if you got to see the workshop that we did recently called 3 Activities a Day to Keep Reading Difficulties Away. And if you did, what did you think? I'm trying to point out how the basic premise of that workshop, that we can save a ton of time by just doing a few activities instead of one activity for every standard under the sun. And so we're looking at how these 3 activities, Switch It, Read It, and Sort It, align with so many standards. So we're on page 2, and you've got oodles of them. Let's see if I can scroll down to the 3rd page. Now this is cattywampus. It's hard to read that, isn't it? Let's see if I can figure out how to turn that. View. We're going to move it in a second. Give me a second, and sorry about that, you guys. Rotate view clockwise. There we go. So here we are on the 3rd page of standards for Common Core State Standards, and we still see, X's after X after X for Switch It and for Read It and Sort It. So many things are being addressed. Now we're into 1st grade, and some of the same standards that were important in kindergarten, we're still reinforcing in 1st grade. So if you're tired of following a reading program where they give you more and more and more and more and more and endless lists of things to do, I ask you to consider turning the script on that and just focusing particularly on these 3 activities: Switch It, Read It, and Sort It. And you will save yourself so much time. You won't have to go run and look for an activity for this standard, how to recognize the distinguishing features actually not that one. Let me do this one. How to demonstrate understanding of spoken words and sounds. You won't have to do a separate activity for that. You can do Switch It and address that while you're addressing phonemic segmentation, and while you're addressing phonemic manipulation, and while you're addressing letter sound knowledge, consonants, consonant digraphs, short vowel knowledge, and you're simultaneously addressing how our code works. So it's a really great decoding activity. It's also a great spelling activity. All of that is happening in the context of this one activity, Switch It. So if you're just popping in, we're talking about the workshop that we've hosted recently called 3 Activities a Day to Keep Reading Difficulties Away. And those 3 activities were Switch It, Read It, and Sort It. And if you didn't get invited to that workshop, I encourage you to watch our page, readingsimplified.com, and we'll have a banner at the top of that site in the next few days, in the next few weeks, inviting you to additional workshops where we're going to be hosting this same concept of how you can just do 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. So look for that at readingsimplified.com if you missed the workshop, because we will do that again. There was so much interest. People had a lot to say, and they're still connecting with me about asking me how to do these things. And so I just wanted to get the word out there that there is a lot of time savings that you can have, and also that you can really see your students accelerate. So I thought it might be fun to show you how much a student can accelerate because you are doing multiple activities or skills at once in this one activity, Switch It. So if the technology works, I'll show you a video of a little boy who was struggling in reading in the middle of November of his kindergarten year. And we just did 5 days of just one activity, just to show what one activity could do, how it could address the concept of the alphabetic principle, how it could do left to right tracking, how it could build letter sound knowledge, how it could build phonemic segmentation and manipulation, how it could boost decoding and spelling skills. So it's pretty interesting to see what happens with just one activity across the course of 5 days. Normally, what would you expect for a kindergartner who only knows 7 letter sounds and cannot segment 3 sound words? What would you expect for him to be able to accomplish in the course of 1 week? Well, if you tune in and stick around and watch this video, you'll see that he accomplished quite a lot. So I'm just going to poke around for the video, and then we'll get started. So this little boy was, like I said, a kindergarten year. He knew 7 letter sounds, and he could not segment 3 sound words. So what you're going to get is a day-by-day zip through the 5 days of one activity, Switch It, how he progressed. Initially, he could not segment 3 sound words, and then notice if he's able to segment 3 sound words at the end of the year, at the end of the 5 days. In fact, maybe he's even able to do a lot more than that. It'll be interesting to see. And if you're here, let me know if you can hear the sound, because this is the first time I've tried this technology. The first word that I'm going to ask you to build is the word Sam, like a guy's name. What do you hear right here when I say Sam? That's right, that's the letter name, but what sound comes out of my mouth? That's right, which one of these is S? You got it. Okay, pull it down and say S. And again, because of Facebook, this looks backwards to you guys, but it's left to right as it should be for him. Now let's focus on what's the next sound that you hear in Sam. You're so right. There is a that's coming over here, but I'm looking for this sound. I want you to listen really. I don't want you to think about what letter it is. First of all, I just want you to pay attention to my. So I'm giving him the word Sam, and I'm asking him to segment it. Can he break those sounds apart? Can he hear them? Research and lots of experience has shown that that's the core thing we need to do to be able to start to crack the code, and he cannot do it on Monday. He can't say and I'm really trying to draw it out of him, but it's really hard. And after lots and lots of coaching, he finally breaks into being able to hear but it's a struggle, and he needs a lot of my help. So watch if he can do it and how hard it is for him at first. And your voice. What do you hear right here when I say Sam? What was coming out of my mouth right there? B. Sam. He said B. N. Sam. What comes out right there? Sam. N.
Well, there is a you know what? Which one of these is That's ah. This is Let's put that one down there. So you got the but what sound do we hear right here?
So he's not able to hear that medial vowel, the center vowel in the 3-sound words. How many of you see that with your struggling readers or with your beginning readers? It's so common that pulling that vowel out is very hard. And so the lines on the board show him conceptually where those sounds are. It's like a visual marker for something abstract. That sound is very hard to pick up. So let's see if he can get it, but it's quite a lot of pulling of teeth. It's like, because the first day is always hardest when you're doing this activity with kids who are not able.
When I say sound. You got it. You heard it. That's ah. So you have map.
Day 2.
We need mat. Oh, I like how you say there, ah. Okay, so you got rid of the pup in map. But we're using mat. Oh, you're hearing it. Very nice. Which one is t? Very good. You know what to do next? And the word is? Mat. Wow. You got soft. We need to switch.
Okay, so day 2 was a little easier. You might have noticed there were more letter sounds on the board, even though he started with the pretest on Sunday only knowing 7 letter sounds. And none of them were short vowels. He was already adding in some vowels and more consonants. And now on day 3, again, just with one activity called Switch It, he's already moving up to 4 sounds. He wasn't able to blend to segment 3-sound words, and now he's able to segment 4-sound words. Of course, he needs a lot of coaching from me, but he's moving up his phonemic awareness. He's moving up in the phonemic difficulty, and he is also learning more letter sounds. And he's building a knowledge of how that code works, the alphabetic principle. He's building left to right tracking. All these things are happening with just this one activity. Let's see how he is able to blend and segment, or rather manipulate and segment 4-sound words.
Sift. You have soft. Switch it to sift. Get rid of the ah, that's right. What sound goes here to make which is it? So say it. Sift. If you sift something, you separate it. Okay, let's check the sounds in sift. You have plot.
So that was pretty cool. Remember, on Sunday he could not say the sounds in sat, or sun. And here on 3 days later, on Wednesday, he can do 4-sound words like if. And notice there's a lot of letter sounds on his board. He is learning the short vowels in a week's time. You'll see by the end of the week how many he knows. And now we're moving to 4 sounds, but the consonants are at the beginning of the word, and that is harder. That's why kids will say funny things like Paschetti, because they can't say the SP at the beginning of a word. It's a lot harder to say, to blend, segment, or manipulate a word like stop than it is to blend, segment, or manipulate a word like fast, where the consonants are at the end of the word. So this is a harder level, even though it's still just 4 sounds. Let's see if he can segment and manipulate with the 4-sound level, and let's see how many different short vowels and consonants he's acquiring.
Yep. Okay, plod.
Where's D?
Plod was the word.
Yes.
There we go.
And what sound is it at the end of plod? Check the sounds, and you got maybe one more. Nope, we're doing the word plod. Plod. Duh. That's a good pick. And let's check this.
So day 4, he's segmenting and manipulating 4 sounds with the consonant at the beginning. That's a harder level. And check out what's happening on Friday. With only 5 days of one activity called Switch It, he is now going to be working in the 5-sound level. So a little boy who on Sunday could not segment 3-sound words like sat and say at is now segmenting and manipulating 5-sound words. And not only that, he is getting a lot more knowledge of letter sounds. Guess how many he knows and he's using in this activity by Friday. Okay, if you have a chance, put it in the comments. On Sunday, when I did the pretest, he only knew 7 and he knew 0 letter sounds. On Friday, the day that you're about to watch, guess how many letter sounds he was able to use successfully. Go ahead and put it in the chat if you're here. And let's watch how he is gaining in skill by the 5th day using Switch It.
Stump. And the word is?
Stump.
Can you take away 2 things? 2 things we're going to do to change stump to
Stump.
stun. Stun. Oh, that is so good. He got both of them. I didn't know if that was possible. We need to make stun. What? Which one is That's old. You nailed it. Okay, I'm stunned that you did it. Okay, check the sounds in stun. It's hard thinking about that, isn't it? Stun. And the last sound? Stun. Very nice.
So look at all that he has accomplished in just that 1 week with one activity. That is one little piece of evidence about how these 3 activities that I'm trying to share with you can do so much more than typical instruction. Instead of just doing oral phonemic awareness only, or just doing phonics knowledge only, when you integrate these things into activities like Switch It, you'll find that your students will just go up and up and up faster than you thought possible. So let's look. This chart explains his growth. On Sunday, when I did a pretest before I started working with him just doing this one activity, he knew these consonants, notice no short vowels, and he could not segment 3-sound words like CVC words. Monday we got started doing just Switch It, no other activities together, and he had to work hard, but with a lot of help he was somewhat able to segment and manipulate CVC words. But also notice I added 2 short vowels into the activity, and as the week progressed he became able to use them independently. More consonants too. And then on Tuesday he was still struggling with the CVC level, so I kept him there, but he made a lot more improvement. He was more comfortable and we got through more words, and you can see that because we added all of these letter sounds. And then on Wednesday he did 4 sound words, and Thursday he did 4 sound words with the consonants at the beginning, which, as I said earlier, is the harder phonemic thing to process. And then Friday, really remarkably, he did 5 sound words with all these short vowels. And you notice that the last one I added was the short U, and he was like, what is that sound in stun? It was hard for him because we've added a lot in a short week. So look at what we got. He started knowing 7, and he was functioning fairly well with 17 by the end of the week. So how many of our activities that we're typically taught to do can accomplish that with a kid who was struggling? He had all the signs of being on the trajectory for getting identified as dyslexic. His mom had a history of dyslexia. He didn't know his letter sounds, even though it was 3 months into the kindergarten year in a literacy-rich environment. He could not hear the sounds and words. And so all of this was he was headed in a challenging direction for himself as a reader. But one activity, because it really emphasized how sounds and symbols work together, and it does a lot of things simultaneously, it made sense to him, and so he was able to see more growth than you would have expected if you'd done any of these things in isolation. Oh, Yvonne, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's look at C again. If you're just popping in, how like Switch It will address so many different things. This, can you see this list? I hope you can. This is a list of Common Core state standards that Switch It addresses for first grade readers. So many different standards. And if your standards are different, that's fine. You'll still hit a lot of them. Tick them off with just one activity, switch it. And let me go up and show you. I got to twist this. Well, let's see. Rotate. We'll rotate again. We'll get there. So this is just another page of how much this one activity switch it will do. Excuse me, I've got too much, got my phone singing to me. This one activity switch it will knock off all of these standards. And Read It and Sort It are the other two activities that I've been presenting on recently, and they also will just hit so many different standards. So if you have tried one of these activities, let us know, or if you think that it will benefit you, that your students could maybe save time or accelerate and you could save time, then let us know in the comments. Write about what you think, what you have already found with these activities, or what you think you might be able to find, especially if you're just now starting your school year coming up. Are you excited to try one of these activities? So again, thanks for being here. I hope that you see the power of these activities. And if you were in our workshop, keep your eyes on your email for the special bonuses that we're offering. And I encourage you to look into the Reading Simplified Academy, where I teach these activities, these 3 core activities, and the whole system that goes around it to save yourself time and to accelerate your students' reading. And there's a link above to look into that Reading Simplified Academy. And if you missed the workshop and you haven't registered for it, keep your eyes out on the Reading Simplified page or website, readingsimplified.com. And at the top, in the coming days, you'll see a link to register for a future workshop where we teach 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. Because I found these to be so significant in my instruction, but I've also had the opportunity to teach many teachers, hundreds of teachers actually, in multiple states through a research project at the University of North Carolina, and those projects got really strong effects and were published in multiple journals. So this isn't just something that I've experienced with my own students, but it's something that lots of teachers have experienced. So I want to save you time. I want to see your students accelerate like that little boy. So check out the Reading Simplified Academy at the link above, and if you missed the workshop where I talked about these activities and showed more videos, keep your eye out on our blog, readingsimplified.com, in the coming days, and we will have a link at the top of the blog, readingsimplified.com, for you to sign up for a future workshop. All right? Thank you, guys.